Hey, beautiful friends, it's Catherine here from Sacred Heart Alchemy and Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders. So I posted about this eclipse energy that we're in yesterday, and I wanted to just pop on for a few minutes today and share a piece of this that I wasn't aware of until I just went through a new moon, eclipse, fiery portal activation in my community that I'm studying in this year called the Kairos Healers Academy. And so they actually did it yesterday, but I did it on the replay today. And energy is energy. So you're in the portal, you're in the transmission, whether you're doing it live or catching it on the replay. But one of the things that came to my attention about these eclipse cycles that I had not been aware of before is that they actually span 19 years. So every new moon, of course, begins a new, 28-day cycle or 30-day-ish cycle, new moon, and then 2 weeks later, the full moon, and then 2 weeks after that, the new moon again. And the new moon is about planting the seeds, setting intention, new beginnings. The full moon, then we get information over 2 weeks as the universe brings into our awareness what needs to be released so that we can actually step more fully into the intention that we set at the time of the new moon. So we have a couple of weeks of information from the universe showing us what's ready to be let go. And then on the full moon, we actually do a releasing statement or ceremony, right? And that cycle continues through the years. But in this case, because we had the new moon and this solar eclipse at the same time, it also is ushering in a new 19-year cycle. So it got me thinking about where I was 19 years ago and where I would like to be in 19 years moving forward. And when I started to actually sit with, okay, where was I 19 years ago? It sort of blew my mind. So I wanted to come on and just kind of bring this forward for you so you can take some time and check in what was going on in your life 19 years ago, right? What were you doing? Where was your own growth pattern leading you at that time? I'm going to share a little bit about mine because when I actually, as I said, sort of sat with it for a few moments, it was really quite amazing. And it's not like I didn't know all of these things, but when I thought about it in terms of a cycle that is now ending and a new cycle beginning, it really took on a very different kind of potency, I would say. So 19 years ago, 2004, I started my 2-year seminary program, the Seminary of Spiritual Peacemaking. Later in 2004, I attended my first in-person retreat for that seminary. And while it was a very powerful experience in and of itself. But while I was there, I got a very clear message that it was time for me to leave the practice that I was in and to follow this dream vision of opening a healing center that had been sort of in the works for many years, but it hadn't really gotten to a point where I felt like it was time to make the move. But when I came back from just the week away for the retreat, the most amazing thing happened while I was gone, which was that the therapy practice that I was working had actually been audited by the labor department. Like, how weird is that? So what the labor department told the owners of the practice, because we were all independent contractors, some of us were art therapists, some of us were clinical social workers, some of us were psychologists, some were art therapists. And so we were all, independent contractors. And the labor department basically said, look, these people are all doing the same thing. You can't run this business and have them as independent contractors. They have to either become employees or they have to just be renters of space here. But it can't be a group in the current configuration that you're having it right now. And immediately I knew that this was Spirit's way of saying to me, this is the time for you to leave. And that was in September of 2004. And within, probably a month, I had found a new space, actually with one of the colleagues there, and where I could open the healing center, which we came to call Spirit Matters. That's the full space wasn't available right then, but we moved into smaller offices while the bigger space was being renovated. And in early 2005, we opened as Spirit Matters, as a healing center. And so that big transformation happened. I left the therapy practice that I had been in for 10 years, went through a 2-year seminary program, opened a healing center. At the end of my seminary program in November of 2005, I went to Israel with a group of people who had gone through the seminary program with James Twineman, and I was baptized in the River Jordan, and then a couple of days later ordained as an ordained minister of spiritual peacemaking on the beach at the Sea of Galilee. So needless to say, those were very transformative experiences. We also held a peace vigil on 11/11/2005. It was the end of Ramadan in Israel where we were, and we did a very powerful peace ceremony there with a lot of the local sort of activists who are trying to bring peace to the Middle East. So again, another powerful experience. So clearly 2004, which was 19 years ago, was the beginning of a whole new chapter in my life that started with, entering seminary, leaving my psychotherapy practice, opening my healing center. 2 years later, a couple of years later, beginning to take coaching certification programs in, moving in the direction of building a coaching practice alongside my therapy practice. And I went through a lot of different kinds of trainings, activations, all kinds of things in those early years. And then the next really big piece was filing for divorce. In the in July of 2007, which was, I had been married in July of 1978. So filing for divorce at the 29-year mark, and 2 months later, leaving not only the marriage, but my home, my children, my pets, basically my financial security, because remembered, I had just opened a healing center, so I had stepped away from, the flow of income that I had from the other practice, and moved out of my 2,500 square foot home with, all the things of suburban life with 3 kids and 2 dogs and a 29-year marriage, and moved into a 200 square foot room in the basement of someone's home because that's what I could afford. And, basically started living my life over again at 53 years old. And then spent many years, you know, trying to settle into that change, that transition, that transformation, I don't even know the right word. Negotiating doesn't sound right, but figuring out new relationships with my children because I was no longer living with them, while running a center, while going through menopause, and doing all of the spiritual, oh, hello, Lulu, all of the spiritual awakening work. So I'm not going to go into, you know, the whole download of everything that happened over these last 19 years, but certainly 2004 was a very potent year and opened up, you know, many changes that are still continuing, you know, to today, where I really feel like I'm right on the cusp, if you will, about ready to birth some new iteration of my life, of my work. And one of the things that I will invite you to do is to do a little review of your last 19 years and kind of see what that cycle was like for you. Check in to see whether it feels like there may be something else coming up for you right now. So this eclipse window is very potent for 2 weeks because, you know, we had the one eclipse yesterday at the new moon. We will have another eclipse on May 5th, which is the start of Beltane, and also the full moon. And the energy will be very potent in this period of time. You know, the universe will really be stirring things up and asking you to look at, what do you want? What seeds do you want to plant right now in this new moon energy that you would like to see come to fruition, not only in the next cycle or the next year, but literally over this next 19-year cycle? And you may not have specific details about that, but I would invite you to take a few minutes and drop into your heart and ask, what is it that wants to come through me? Who am I becoming? What do I claim for this next cycle of my life, whether it's the next 30-day, you know, moon cycle, or the cycle of a full year, or the longer cycle of this solar eclipse in Aries, which will happen again in 19 years from now. So I'm going to, and your intention shouldn't be some long-winded, right, kind of from your mind, ego, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that, or, you know, with some energy of urgency and I should and I have to. That's not what an intention really should feel like or sound like. You want to be as clear and simple, really, as possible. A simple, short statement or two that's coming from your heart, or the truth of yourself, that part of you that knows what you are ready to step into. It may feel a little scary. It may feel a lot scary. It may feel a little nauseating. You know, sometimes in Kairos we laugh and we say, all right, get out the puke bucket, because this really, you know, makes me feel like I want to throw up when I say this, when I give it voice, when I say it out loud, when I claim it as my truth. And so just know that your true intention may be something that feels scary, maybe something that feels like, oh, even saying this out loud, you know, makes me feel off balance, or like I want to dissociate, or, you know, nauseated. And that actually is probably an indication that this is the true thing, that this is the real thing, that this is what your soul is wanting you, you know, is calling you forward into. So I'm going to share mine with you from my heart. This has been coming to me for several months now and has felt really activated and true. in the last week as we've moved into this energy. So again, feeling even a little self-conscious as I say this out loud, but I know how important it is to bring this from my heart up through the transformational portal of the throat and impressing it into the fabric of creation, right? In the ancient mystery schools, the initiates had to practice seed sounds over and over and over again before they could even put them together into intentions, so that when they brought it up and out into the world, they understood the power of bringing their voice and literally impressing their intention on the fabric of creation. So just sit with that thought for a moment, impressing my intention on the fabric of creation. Those are some pretty powerful words. So that being said, my intention is that I am a holy teacher. I bring through divine wisdom and unconditional love. So that is my intention in this new moon for the next month, for the coming years, and for this next 19-year cycle, which for me will put me in my mid-80s. So it's, you know, it really is this chapter of moving through what will likely be my final period of real service to humanity, and wanting that to be as in the highest level of service that I can possibly be, with full knowing of the truth of myself as spirit in form, as a holy teacher, as one who brings through divine wisdom and love. Yeah, so as sort of my final maybe 19-year cycle of true contribution to humanity and this ascension process that we are going through at this time. So take some time, review your last 19 years, see what that feels like for you. Think about or drop into your heart, maybe do some journaling, you know, asking yourself, what wants to come through me over this next cycle, these next 19 years, and then create your own intention statement. And I would love, love, love if you would actually post it in the comments below this video. All right, beautiful souls, have a lovely, lovely rest of your day and into the weekend, and I will see you again soon. Bye now.